Hi friends, and welcome to your myfreeactingclass.com lesson 4. Oh gosh, what is today? Wednesday, August the 19th. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Liz McLaughlin, who's teaching the voice class today, will be here in mere moments. She sounded a little discombobulated, and I guess something happened downtown and she was stuck in traffic, and I was like, don't worry about it, Liz. I may not have a plan, and I may be a little cabin in the woods, but like I got you covered for those 5 minutes. So here's your chance to ask me anything, because I don't have anything planned except to hand you over to Liz, who will talk to you about practical voice things. Although you did get to hear me chat with RT for a moment, who recorded her first taped audition yesterday. So
I'm so excited.
Celebrate for her. I don't know if you heard her say that it took her 8 hours. I think she had just a couple of lines. Initially the technology can be tricky to figure out. And so, more power to her. I was really pleased that she figured that out. There's a program called Handbrake. Those of you who've seen Kirsten Clarkson's screen acting school lessons, she references it specifically a couple of times, but it's a free program. You can use it to convert files and make them smaller, which is important for uploading video files. So that's a good one to look into. And if you ever find yourself in that position, just go back to Kirsten's website, check out some of her content there. Now, does anybody have a question while we're waiting for Liz to show up? Help me out here.
Movies?
Pardon me?
Have you been in any movies or?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I was in my last feature. The last one was, oh God, I don't remember what it was called, Cold something. It was called Hard Powder when I filmed it. It was this Liam Neeson film. And oh my gosh, like I just met Mr. Neeson very, very briefly at the end. And for some reason, I'm completely blanking on the name of the actress. We were on top of a mountain in Alberta. It was fantastic. In the like deep, deep cold. Pretending to be in this like cemetery, but like really they hauled everybody to the very top of a mountain, because for feature films they just have the budget to do stuff like that. They're like, what would really make it look cool? If we brought the entire crew and everybody up to the top of a mountain and built a little pretend cemetery up there. So that was the last feature I was in. Most of what I've done is television. I was in the CBS's show Charmed, and fairly recently, and a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember. I think I'm coming up on 40 something credits on IMDb, 50, something like that. I have somebody that I'm really stoked about for joining us, I think not next week, but the week after. Her name's Cassandra Ebner. She is actually the one who connected me to Richard. Man, Richard's talk was so great. I haven't uploaded it to YouTube yet, but I will soon. Anybody who wasn't there, he's the stunt coordinator for Batwoman, which is sort of back into production right now, and such a cool experience for me talking to a stunt coordinator. Okay, we probably got just like a minute before Liz gets here. So, Kaden, do you have a question, or do you just want to talk?
Is it called Pursuit?
Sure. Yeah.
You're in it.
Yeah, that's the Liam Neeson film. Yeah, I'm the priest.
Yeah.
Something that was interesting for me about that one was that when I got to set, the producer said, the assistant director was like, because they didn't have any lines specifically written in, and so I on the off chance they didn't give me something when I got there, I brought like a Bible psalm that like, though I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no evil, etc., etc. Like this is sort of classic piece of psalm. And when I got there, the AD was like, just do one of your bits on forgiveness or something like that. And I was like, one of my bits, and it took me a moment to realize that they actually thought I was a priest. which I think is so flattering. Like I think that that's almost the ideal experience for decision makers, is that as the actor is so grounded and so honest and so simple in the audition room that when the actor walks out the door, they're like, well, that person just is like that, right? So they are, if they're casting somebody who's really a jerk, they're like, well, he's a skilled actor and he wasn't mean to us, but wow, that guy's really a jerk. Or I don't know, I had a friend who was cast to be a barber and he got to set and they were like, wait, you mean you're not a barber? Like you don't cut people's hair? And those are just really simple examples. But on that one, on Cold Pursuit, when I got to set, they just assumed that I was actually a priest. And so that I had, of course, all sorts of sermons that I could give and I could just choose one. So thank goodness I'd prepared something in advance. Liz, do we have you yet? Are you here with us? Liz McLaughlin. I don't see her. Okay. I better quickly multitask. Somebody else help me out with another question, would you?
I have a question, Michael.
Please.
I had an audition for a commercial audition, and they wanted me to slate, and they wanted a full body shot at the same time. And I don't know how I go from a medium close up to a full body shot on a tripod by myself. I just don't know how.
Let me show you. I had to figure this out with a client just recently.
Right.
You sure can't do it in the way that you would normally do it with a regular audition, but you do it like this. Hey, I'm Michael Bean, and I'm 6'1". And then you just walk backwards. This is my whole body. Right? Like it's and it's the easiest thing in the world. And it was so weird. Like we thought about it and we're like, oh man, it's going to be so hard. And then we're like, wait a second, can you just like do the slate and then walk backwards until the camera can see your whole body? And it's like, oh yeah, we can actually totally do that. That's no problem.
That's kind of what I did. So I was like, I was hoping that's okay, but.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, unless if somebody's got a better solution, they're gonna have to tell me later. But that's the easiest solution that I can think of. Liz McLaughlin, are you okay?
Yeah, I tried to put too much into my morning, and then I got caught short, and during what is rush hour, so that's my fault. Well, hi everybody, how are you?
Answering questions for people, and it was just fine. I'm going to make you a co-host, and then I have to run away.
Okay, bye.
Make host. You are now the host.
Great.
Yes. Does somebody have a question for me before I run away? I had somebody say my name. Caden, are you waiting? Do you want to ask a question? Yes. What?
How old when you started acting?
It depends how you count. Caden, I started doing film and TV acting in my early 20s. So I started a lot later than most of the students who I teach, right? Like, because I know actors who started at your age or younger. But I did theater in high school, and then I did professional improv for a couple of years. And then in my early 20s, I was like, I need something different. And just about then I found a film and TV class, and I was like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? Because film and TV acting let me sort of be honest, and still be expressive, and it, let me pay attention to what I was feeling in a way that was really transformative for me. Thanks, good question. Okay, I've got to run. Bye, friends.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Sorry once again. We've had a few problems the last couple of weeks, but anyway, it's good to see you, and I think I promised to take you on to what did I do here? Oh, I don't want that. I promised to take you on to speech this time. So did anybody have any questions from last time? Anybody remember anything? No? Okay, well, just to recap then, We spent a little time breathing and finding our feet and allowing the height. Because if we just think about allowing ourselves to rise and a little bit of height in there, our voices tend to open up. And then once we have that, if you remember, I said something to the effect of any character, even a character who's hunched over, you can then find a way to allow this, which we call the vocal channel, to be nice and open. And that way we have power without feeling like we have to yell. And we have resonance. So we have vibrations within our body, which gives us presence and that sort of subtle power that we want to have on camera, right? So you may have heard an acting teacher or maybe a director or something talk to you about, well, not quite so big. Doesn't have to be that big. But even though you're having this big emotional scene, but you're not supposed to be big. So what do? Well, you open up the voice and the breath and you can find that resonance and that openness, and that has power. And yet you can be the size that the camera wants, okay? But I did promise you that I'd move on to speech. And then after that, hopefully we get one more to move on to dialect work. Some people were asking about that last time. So I'm going to ask you all to sit forward. If you're on a chair or the edge of a bed or something, and you can put your computer up somewhere so that you can be nice and free. If you can't, that's understandable. You'll still get the goods. It's just you won't have the same visceral vocal experience, okay? So our voice is part of our body. It's that simple. And it works in coordination with all of the other things. So last time I talked about the voice coming from below as opposed to trying to press it out from the throat. And the speech is the same way. Speech is on the other end of that vocal channel. And it comes from us shaping our mouths differently, right? So we're going to play a little game. If you're able to manage to not be hunched over too much or too stiff in the other direction, but just nice and easy, I'm going to give you some directions to play vocally. All right? We have something in our language, all of our languages, that we call vowel sounds. They are sounds that we make without stopping the flow of air. There's a free flow of air with them. And in our vowel sounds, that's where all our passion is. All our emotion is carried through vowel sounds. For example, if I was to go, do you know when somebody puts OMG up on the computer? Okay, so I'm going to use the nice version of this, and I'm going to say, oh my gosh. Oh, right? We really accentuate those vowel sounds to let the passion come through, right? So how do we make these vowel sounds? Well, it's pretty simple. We do two things, or not two things, a couple of things. I'm going to ask you to say the sound of ah, ah. Good. Now, I can't hear you all right now, but I'm going to ask you to be your own sort of coach here in the room. If you feel like the sound is coming along up your throat and then along your tongue and out, and it is starting to feel scratchy here, then we're not allowing the back of the mouth to be nice and open. So what we want to do is, I'm going to ask you to put your tongue behind your bottom front teeth, and we're going to say, ah, and I'd like you to imagine, if this is my tongue here, that the sound is coming up and underneath the roof of your mouth and flowing out into the room. It's just an image thing, and you don't have to push. Ah, ah. If you're having trouble, you can try lifting your top lip just slightly. Ah, good. That's going to be our bass sound. Now we're going to change it a little bit, but we're not going to change it by trying to make a particular sound. We're going to change it by raising and lowering our jaw. So what you'll get is great, excellent. So the next one is we're going to take the same sound, ah, and we're going to change it by rounding and unrounding our lips. The jaw is going to stay where it is, nice and loose, but it's going to stay where it is. Good. I promise you there'll be something fun and silly at the end of this if you just stick with me, okay? Good. The next one is the same sound of ah. This time the jaw and the lips are going to stay relatively relaxed, and the back of the tongue is going to arch up towards the top of our mouth. And so the sound we get instead is I. Good. And the last one, this one's harder, but we do it all the time. If you ever say the word, any word with ing on the end of it, like sing, bring, thing, then you make this sound. So we're going to allow the top back of our mouth, which is called the soft palate. You can feel it. You can take your tongue back, curl it back, and as soon as the top of the mouth starts to feel spongy, that's the beginning of your soft palate. Don't go too much further. I don't want you to gag. Good. And the soft palate can do this. It can stretch down like this and stretch up like that. It can also stretch down on the sides and then back up. So that's what we're going to do. The jaw, the tongue, the lips stay nice and neutral. It will sound like this. Good. Now I'm going to ask you to just play around with all of those. I call this the bad didgeridoo game, because you're going to sound a little bit like somebody who's trying to play a didgeridoo but doesn't. I'm going to try to do it for you now, and it will sound a little like this. This isn't gibberish, by the way. This is simply us moving different parts of our mouth and seeing what sounds are actually there. So we get I see a couple of people don't want to do this one, but I promise you in the end it will be fun. Good. Good. All right. Good. So that's playing with your vowel sounds. Just the basic of how we make them. Now we're going to play with how we make consonant sounds. And consonant sounds are the sounds we make in language where the sound is either really narrowly redirected, like s or v, or completely redirected up into the nose, or the sound gets stopped and then exploded out again, like t, p, b, like that. Okay? So we're just going to go. I'd like you to try making some sounds just with your lips, that where the lips come together and make a sound. So we'll have things like p, b. things like that. And then we'll do some of the other ones that are similar to that. We'll go and then t, k, g, t, g, k, t, g, g. Good. How about an L sound? L, or an S sound. S. And then we'll do a Z sound. Z. Good. I'm going to talk just really quickly. There are sounds that we make and we use our vocal cords, and sounds that we make exactly the same way, except we don't use our vocal cords. So for example, I'd like you to just lightly put your fingers on your larynx. Don't press too hard. And we're going to say like snake. Good. Now we're going to make a z sound as in xylophone. We're doing the same position, but you can feel vibration. So the S is an unvoiced and the Z is a voiced sound. But that's for later. That's for another time. Good. So you can make P, B, T, G, M, O, S, J, Ch, and J are consonant sounds, as in think, or th as in that. Yeah, good. So now I'm going to ask you to do just the consonant sounds. It's hard not to add vowels, and if you add vowels, it's not a big deal, because that's what we're going to do next. We're just going to go tk, m, p, j, k, s, v, p, ch, m, k, l. You don't have to follow me. You're going to do your own thing, right? Just move around those consonant sounds a little bit. Okay, it's hard not to add vowels. But now we're going to add the vowels, and that will sound like this. Chika maleko sikina sha jumpa. Like that. You do your own thing, and then come back, put your hand up, tell me if it reminds you of anything. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a hint. Cola se meko solo Januszka Pachico Samente Dola. Might remind you of something. Caden, what's that? What does it remind you of?
Pina.
What's that?
Klingon. Klingon.
That's so good. That's so good. Excellent. Deborah, what did you think?
But I was thinking it might have been, it sounded like some of the language in Game of Thrones or something a bit.
Well, you're both very close. It's from Star Wars.
It's from Star Wars, okay.
It's called Huttese. From Candy to Star Wars, that's right. It's called Huttese. I wasn't actually speaking Huttese, but I call that my bad Huttese. Yeah?
Bad Huttese.
Bad Huttese. It's not, sorry I have to leave everybody from Carla. Okay, bye Carla. Okay, good. So when we've only got, I'm going to go a couple of minutes over. I know a lot of you might not be able to stay, but I was late, so I'm willing to go over. I'm happy to. When we have a good sense of how we make sounds in our mouth and the best way to make them so it's easiest for us, we become more agile. Oh, that's good. We become more agile, then the ability to make character sounds. So let's say you were going to do be a voice for a cartoon, for something that is like a new Game of Thrones or a new Star Trek or something, and they needed a character that wasn't speaking English, but you could create a character out of moving your mouth in a different way. You could create a dialect by moving your mouth in a different way. So this is why we spend so much time working on speech, is so that we have the agility to do this and the agility to do it without harming ourselves. Because there's an awful lot of people I know, because I went to school with some of them, who were voiceover artists, big voiceover artists in the US, but they came to take class because they were hurting themselves. They were pushing too hard. And what they really wanted was the agility to be able to do all of this with ease, if that makes sense. Yeah? Good. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to unmute everybody. How do I do that? I don't know how to do that. So
I think we can unmute ourselves.
Okay, great. If you could unmute yourselves, and we'll just have a little chat for the last few minutes. Does anybody have any questions about that? Concern?
No.
No. Katie says no. How about anybody else?
I just found it so interesting that to learn this. That's all. I don't really have any questions about it, but it's amazing.
Okay, great.
This is super great. Thank you. It's really cool.
You're very welcome. Well, hopefully we have to make up for last week. I'm sorry, I was having my throat scoped. I thought that I had something wrong with my throat, so somebody was busy sticking a tube up my nose and down my throat to look at my vocal cords. Luckily, we're good. So if we have one more, what I'd like to do is take some of this oral posture and play with a dialect. Like most people have to learn Standard American or non-regional American in the market that we're in here in Vancouver. But we could always do something else if you wanted, no problem. I'll let you give your vote to Michael. Or I do have a couple of lines of Dothraki. We could learn those. That's always fun too. Anybody else? Any last questions? Does this also help with vocal training for singing? I think it would, in that you have more awareness of your vocal apparatus. Whether or not a singing teacher would be in agreement with that, I'm not sure. But my goal through the kind of work that I do is to open and create agility. For singing, of course, there's many other factors that have to go in there. You know, the power from below, pitch, play, good ear training, that kind of thing that is a slightly different. But can we find, I don't know. I can look it up when we're done about finding Hitesh online. We could try. I don't know for sure.
Probably. Probably. It's on there because everything's on Google.
Everything is on there unless it's pretty new.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are quite obsessed with constructed languages. If you're interested, there's a very interesting movie made by some UBC, University of British Columbia filmmakers on constructed language. It's called conlanging. And it's interviewing people who create these languages. So it can be quite interesting if that's something that you're into, or if you've got your secret language that you've created and you want to hear what other people are doing, then it's out there. Just put in conlanging, and it should come up somewhere. Okay. Is everybody feeling all right?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any last questions before I let you go? No? I'm going to leave with a word of advice. Tongue twisters. Try them, but try them slowly. Work from the slow to a little bit faster. Going fast right away, you're looking for precision, and your mouth has a muscle memory, just like everything else in your body. So give yourself time, and then when you say them, when you get faster, then it'll be like butter. Okay? All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.